Hello all, welcome to the Bookcast Club, a podcast for people who like to chat books. Today it is me and Jenny. Me, Sarah, coming to you from Luchaweeta in Australia, also known as Tasmania, and Jenny coming to you from Norwich in the UK.
As of tomorrow, I will not be in Norwich in the UK.
Where will you be?
I'll be in the UK, but
okay.
I will be somewhere in the UK heading towards Wales, which is also in the UK for anybody not familiar with UK geography.
Jenny's about to leave on
Norwich much longer.
On a holiday that she's deeply unprepared for. She's just been telling me.
A road trip with my children to see grandparents, yes. Yep. Yeah, I often question my decision to live the other side of the country when we need to do this. But yeah, road tripping tomorrow.
You do a lot. You seem to do
I'm
it.
Not prepared for in the slightest.
You do it a few times a year, right? Is that correct?
Yeah, I'll go to my dad's. Oh God, if you're not familiar with UK geography, this won't mean anything to you, but I go to my dad's slightly more often because he's about a 6-hour drive. My mum is in southwest Wales, so that's a whole day drive, which I do not want to do with the children. So I have to break it up and stay in a hotel. And yeah, so I'd only do my mum once a year. Poor lady. She does come and visit us. But yes, there's something to be said for living near family. As you know, because, you choose to do the same. But yeah, it's pros and cons.
Very much so. Very much so. One of the things as well, when you live far away, is that when you visit them, you tend to be staying with them. That's sort of how it goes. Yeah. So sort of having moderate interactions where you see them for a bit and then leave is not generally on the cards, which can be a challenge. Or it can be, let's say, it's something to think about,
I get very jealous of people who live near family and just, pop around for lunch on a Sunday. Sounds lovely.
And then leave again.
And then they leave.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And they don't really put much thought into it. Yeah, that is nice. Anyway, but we're fine with our living situations and every part of our lives, aren't we, Jen? We're going to talk about non-fiction today. I have basically strong-armed the podcast into doing a non-fiction episode this year. So we're going to talk about reading non-fiction, our relationship with non-fiction. We're going to talk a little bit about the Women's Prize for non-fiction, or maybe a lot about, I'm not sure. And then we will talk about some of the non-fiction stuff that we have been picking up recently.
Can I just open my window?
Yes, you may open your window.
Just going to open my window.
Okay. Bit of Jenny's got lovely curtains, just so you know. She's got these lovely sort of fabric, I'm going to call them fabric horizontal blinds that can be dropped down. I'm just describing your blinds to the listener. You've got these lovely fabric blinds. They're really lovely. Yeah, she's actually
William Morris print.
She's quite the home decorator. You might be surprised to learn.
I know, and then I walk around looking such a state. But my house
is lovely.
Yeah, the house is very nice.
I mean, you don't walk around in a state.
I do.
Last time I saw you had some.
I'm currently in tracksuit bottoms.
But you're in your home on a Saturday morning.
See-through massive t-shirt with a hole in the back.
That's all right. Last time I saw you wearing some rather fetching overalls, if I remember correctly.
Oh, was I?
Really?
Sometimes I make an effort. Yeah. That must have been for you, Sarah.
Oh, it's for someone. Right, so let's talk about non-fiction, because I've just really got into non-fiction this year. I don't know why. Well, I do know why. I've been enjoying it. Not normally it's one of those things where I always feel like I should read non-fiction. Do you know what I mean? But then I never actually really do it, and they're always kind of boring.
I've picked up quite a lot this year.
Yeah,
weirdly.
I think it's something to do with the climate. I think the sort of economic and political climate. I'm like, I need to read some non-fiction.
Yeah, maybe that's it. I think I've been listening to audiobooks for years now. I want to say decades. It probably is. And I've definitely learned that I am old. Probably was around when Audible started. Yes. As I learned with our Wicked episode, I don't think I can really listen to fiction very well on audio. I did not remember that book at all, and that is how I read it the first time. So yeah, I've really kind of stuck with non-fiction in audio
I like
format.
reading non-fiction. That's
generally what I listen to.
Yeah, because I think it's a bit more podcasty. You can kind of generally if you dip out,
and I flip between the two as well.
Yeah, me too. And you're not going to miss a plot point.
And podcasts.
Yeah. not going to miss a plot point, I think, and also, yeah, it just sort of lends itself really well to listening to it for like 10 minutes. It's not really, or like 20 or whatever. It's not really, fiction is quite different. So I'm
I can be quite passive with fiction. I'll find that like 10 minutes has gone by and I wasn't concentrating on what I was listening to. Whereas like, I can't really do that with non-fiction. Otherwise I completely lose what the book is about. So I kind of just I think I'm a bit stricter as to when I listen to it and whether I'm actually listening properly.
Right. I feel like with non-fiction, I don't worry so much about following it as closely as I do with fiction, because you can drop out a bit and it's going to be fine. It's not like you got to miss some character being introduced or something like that is like critical.
No, that's true.
So I often feel a bit less, I don't know, something. I'm always quite chill about it. I also think, I used to think that non-fiction was quite bad, generally, because I would read books that were non-fiction that were like very recommended or whatever, and I would find them to be frankly terrible. And I think one of the things with non-fiction...
As in how?
The writing would be awful.
Too academic?
No, too...
because you quite like an academic non-fiction.
Yeah, I do like an academic non-fiction. Almost too journalistic. I hate it when they're like very sensationalist and kind of repetitive and obvious. But like also boringly written, do you know what I mean? Like I hate those ones where they're like journalists writing about famous people they've met and they talk about the interview and it's very like, we meet in this cafe, he orders this, I order that. Yeah. I hate that kind of non-fiction.
I remember you saying this before.
What is it, like journalistic non-fiction or whatever? There are particular books I can think of that, anyway. And I think sometimes the issue with non-fiction is that they are not that well written, because that's not the point of them. And I also think that the importance of what the topic is about and the quality of the book basically get conflated. So books that are about, if you write a non-fiction, you're obviously often writing about something important. And when people review and like recommend books, they're basically recommending the topic itself rather than the book.
Yeah.
So I do feel like non-fiction books kind of get inflated on that because of that. That's my feeling. And I don't think writing is really as emphasized in non-fiction. So I basically think it's easy to get away with crappy writing, like boring, repetitive, boring writing.
Yeah, interesting.
That's my opinion. And I'll stick by it.
Which is kind of interesting with us, going on to talk about the Women's Prize now, covering non-fiction. I haven't read loads of them, but I feel like prizes like that would weed that kind of writing out. I don't know if you feel differently.
Yeah, I think so. Somewhat. I haven't read enough. I haven't been sort of following non-fiction prizes long enough to sort of have an opinion about that. The Bailey, what's it called? The Bailey Gifford Prize?
Bailey Gifford.
I think that one, I wish they focus a little bit more on writing. I don't think some of the books that I've read of theirs that have won or done very well, I was a bit like, okay. So, like, for example, I don't think I actually finished it, but I read Empire of Pain by Patrick Radden Keefe, which is, basically about the regulation of medication in the US, focusing on OxyContin, which is a pain drug. It's an important topic, but I didn't think that book was very good. I was quite bored by it, to be honest with you. And I just didn't think I don't think that it is very well written. It's just kind of boring. If you're used to reading non-fiction where people have put a lot of time and effort into their craft, I don't think you would be that enamored by it. Maybe you would. That's my opinion. Yeah, so I do feel like that kind of happens with non-fiction. If you're reading about something that's like complicated or whatever, I do feel like a lot of books get away with some pretty unimpressive writing. Yeah. Okay. Just my controversial opinion at the top end of the pod.
How do you get your, where do most of your non-fiction recommendations come from?
I get recommended by friends quite a lot, because a lot of my friends read non-fiction. I really am, I will follow, it's not a particular non-fiction prize that I follow all the time, but I will sort of keep an eye on, like, I think the Republic of Consciousness has non-fiction books, like the Women's Prize. Like, I sort of keep an eye on what is kind of cropping up in different long lists. I also follow, there's a YouTuber called Britta Berler, who's a German booktube person. I get a lot of recommendations from her. She does really good. She reads a lot of non-fiction, and she always has really good recommendations. So I've read some absolute bangers on her recommendations. So I guess we'll pop her channel in the comments, in the show notes. Yeah, so they're probably my main sources, I would say. There's also a podcast that I really like called The Bookshelf, which is an Australian podcast. And they will also talk about non-fiction sometimes. But most of the time it's either media type things or Britta Berler, basically. She's my main source.
Nice, yeah. I know that our friend of the pod, Mercedes, who's booktuber, I think I get a lot of recommendations from her. And when I check the prizes, I haven't recently, I do pick up quite a lot from non-fiction prizes. I think there's the Wainwright prize as well, which does the kind of nature writing type books. Yeah, but I guess, mainly for me, it would be YouTube and other podcasts. Sometimes hyped non-fiction as well.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit more open to reading hyped non-fiction than I am fiction.
Yeah, me too.
Weirdly, because I'm a massive hypocrite.
Well, yeah. I'm just looking at some of the non-fiction awards that I follow. Yeah, so the Wellcome Prize, I sort of keep an eye on. The Orwell Prize, the Natural World Book Prize, British Book Awards, and the Baillie Gifford Prize. They're the kind of ones that I generally keep a bit of an eye on. And then I can't see Republic of Consciousness on this list, but I really thought that was I might be completely wrong. Yeah, so they're the kind of ones that I tend to keep a bit of an eye on in a passive way without being too dedicated to that. So yeah, last year previously the Women's Prize for Fiction, they opened up a non-fiction prize as well. So now there's two prizes every year. There's the Original Fiction Prize, and now they also have the Women's Prize for Non-Fiction. I have to say, I was extremely surprised by this move because they didn't really advertise it. There was no lead up for what I can remember.
Just kind of popped up on social media, didn't it?
Basically. I was just very surprised by it, to be honest. So I've been sort of looking at it last year and this year. I haven't read the whole thing or anything like that. And I don't know if I will. That's quite a lot of work to read 6 non-fiction books. But I find it quite interesting, and I've been looking at them with great interest. So you read the winner last year, didn't you? You and Chris did an episode about the winner, actually. Doppelganger.
Yeah, I read Doppelganger by Naomi Klein. And I remember really enjoying it at the time. If you now ask me to tell you what it was about, I'm not entirely sure that I can. I remember parts of it kind of standing out to me. There's definitely, she comments a lot on like our other selves online and social media, and I feel like Chris had some sort of a crisis where he deleted all his social media and all his like previous content on platforms because of that book.
Oh, I
and
see.
How she talks about our like other selves that we've created online. And there's bits of it that I remember like that, but I can't really remember much otherwise. But it was a very good read at the time. How much of it has stuck with me? Clearly not very much. I'm sure other people have had a very different experience with it.
Yeah,
but I get why it won, because I think it's timely and a hot topic like right now.
Yeah, I think it's really important to think about as well, like what you're putting online. I know I sound like an old, but yeah, what exactly? Something I think about a lot. Yeah, I agree. I've got it out from the library, I reckon 4 times, and I've still just not read. I don't really know why. I just haven't quite. Not sure.
Yeah, I think I read the physical copy of that one, and that never happens. That might be why I can't remember it.
What? So hang on. So you can't listen to books, you can't read them? How do you absorb books? Or is it non-fiction? You got to be audio.
No, I could listen to non-fiction. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I read the physical copy of that one. But yes,
that's funny. You need to be You need someone to read it to you, pointing at the words.
Someone has to read it to me. Otherwise, I crawl through non-fiction in physical format. Just takes me forever.
So I've read from the long list this year, or last year? I don't know. I've got a couple. I've mixed them up. I can't remember if they're from this year or last year. The first one is Autocracy, Inc. by Anne Applebaum, which definitely is from this year. This one I just finished. I really, really enjoyed this. So this is about... She's a journalist. Her writing is excellent, actually. So she is a political journalist, I believe, and so she writes a lot about politics. But the thing that I really, really like about this book is that she has a very good understanding of politics in a lot of different countries and governments in a lot of different countries. So what she's looking at here is autocratic countries. So these are countries where the person who's in charge has absolute power. So it's not a democracy where people are voted in, but it's an autocracy. And she looks at how the government, how the systems are in place to continue this happening, and how the country is sort of built around this happening, what happens when people try and rise up, and the sort of sort of the big scale systems that are in place to kind of enable this across different countries. So she talks about Iran, for example. She talks about North Korea, Russia. She talks about quite a few different countries in Africa. And she talks about the similarities between them. And she also talks a lot about how these countries actually cooperate with each other. So the things that happen between the different leaders of these countries, like she talks about Russia, for example, a lot, and the things and the way that Russia collaborates with other autocratic nations. And it was just it's quite short. It's only like 200 pages. And it's a really skillful, like high-level overview, I would say, about like global politics. So most of the time, I think when you read books that are like this, they are very, very detailed. Like I've read a couple of books about Russian politics, for example, about Putin. They're very, very detailed about who's in charge, who this person was, which cabinet leader this was this year and this government. And, it's very, very, very specific. Whereas this was like a very skillful description about a global problem, right? So she's kind of like a level up, which is something I haven't really read before, especially not with that kind of skill and that kind of brevity. Like often books like this, I would assume a book like this would be like 700 pages, right? But it's literally, I think it'd be lucky if it's 200. It was like 200-ish, 250 maybe. So yeah, I think a really admirable achievement to be able to do that in such a short page count.
So that was on this year's long list?
Yes, this year's long list, yeah, it was. Yeah, I was really, really impressed by that. And I learned a lot. It was really good. Really liked it.
Yeah, that sounds really good. It doesn't sound like one, like reading the description of it, it's one that I probably would have been like, oh, no, I wouldn't read something like that. But actually, it does sound really good. And the fact that it's shorter definitely is a selling point to me.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, I might see if my library has that one. I'm finding the short list is obviously really hard to get hold of, but maybe the long list won't be so difficult.
Yeah, I just found I really like that she went into countries that were not the US and Russia and China. She moved out of the sort of big powers and really talked about a lot of smaller countries. And she also talked a lot about what happens in those kinds of autocratic countries and how people tend to think about countries like the US, like the sort of influence that these governments have on people she talks about quite a lot of different African countries where Putin's influence has been quite marked. And so like how, like the media exposure that people actually have there. Yeah, really good. Really, really good. That was great. And then I also have read recently Codependent, kind of in a similar vein, which was recommended by my friend Anna, friend of the pod Anna. She's a Patreon, I believe. This was long-listed, or even short-listed, I think, last year. I remember seeing it floating around the long list last year. So this is Codependent Living in the Shadow of AI by Madhumita Murgia.
I remember you talking about this one.
I did talk about this in January. I think it must have been for a Patreon episode. But what we are looking at here is basically large language models, artificial intelligence and large language models, so things like ChatGPT, and how these are working, again, like across the world. So I think I just really like books that don't focus in super specifically on one thing, but rather look at something across many different countries or many different systems. I find that a bit more interesting, I think. So she talks about how large language models are developed, how these algorithms are influenced by these huge amounts of people that are hired often in developing countries to do things like photo recognition and to like label photos and to train these models, and how this kind of entire economy is at the moment based around this, but those jobs are all going to die because those models will eventually become self-sufficient. So she talks about that. She talks about some of the sort of dangers there, how there's sort of like these microeconomies being created. And then she also talks, a very, very balanced book. It's very good. Then she also talks about some of the big benefits of AI. So she talks about, for example, she follows a doctor who is in a very isolated part of, I think it's Liberia, maybe. And they are using AI to look at like pathology reports and like pathology stains and that kind of thing, because they don't have anyone to diagnose things like tumours and sort of skin tissue and whatever. So they take their samples, they make the slides, and then they use AI to predict what, like, if it is likely to be a tumour or whatever, and they use that to really help with their decision making, because they do not have doctors out there that can help them. And then she talks about like the huge benefit that is, and then she also talks about it being useful for diagnosis when like it's really hard to distinguish between different diseases, but the treatment is very different. And if you're not in a place where you can sort of liberally go on multiple different treatments, if you have to sort of really choose one because of the resources that you have, how useful AI is. So she talks about that. But then she also brings in examples where AI has been used very unhelpfully. So like she talks about a case in Amsterdam, for example, where the police were using AI to profile people who were likely to commit crimes, and then were basically apprehending those people based on nothing. And then it turned out the AI was, because it is based on like police reports and humans, basically, it was hugely biased, and it was just basically racially profiling people and targeting people of minority groups who then become involved with the police, and it becomes a whole cycle where basically, people who have been picked up by the police are actually more likely to then get involved in the criminal justice system. So, yeah, she talks about all these different uses of AI and sort of how the world is changing and all the different ways in which it's changing with AI. So I also found that really, really good. Very accessible book for what it's about. It was really, really well written, and it's very human. Like, she's really talking about the experience of humans, so she doesn't go into a lot of detail about the models themselves and the actual technology. It's really about human experience. So that was another excellent one, actually.
Yeah, that one sounds really good. I've added that to my TBR. I think AI is something that, just interests me at the moment. Yeah, that one sounds great. Did you say that was on the long... No, it came out last year.
Yeah, it was on last year's... I think it was on last year's shortlist.
So it was shortlisted last year.
Yep.
For the Women's Prize for Non-Fiction.
Cool. Yeah, that one's great. Should we go through this year's shortlist?
Yes, we're going to talk briefly about this year's shortlist. I've got this little kind of blurb from their website with the 6 books on the 2025 Women's Prize for Non-Fiction shortlist are united by the power of hope and the necessity of resistance to initiate change. In different ways, this shortlist exemplifies the irrepressible spirit of humanity and nature, and the capacity of both to reinvent in the face of adversity. It's a little bit like the fiction prize in that sense, in that I don't know if they necessarily reveal that they've got kind of some sort of topic or theme in mind until they've chosen what their shortlist is. Maybe that comes out kind of in discussion, I don't know, but it's interesting that they can like thematically link them, I think. How loose that is, I don't know. But the shortlist this year are 1,000 Threads by Nina Cherry, The Story of a Heart by Rachel Clark, Raisin Hair by Chloe Dalton, Agent Zoe by Claire Mully, What the Wild Sea Can Be by Helen Scales, and Private Revolutions, Coming of Age in a New China by Yuang. Have you read any of these?
No, I haven't. My long list predictions are way off. These are not at all the books that I thought would be on there. But I have currently got 1,000 Threads and Private Revolutions out from the library. And I've got What the Wild Sea Can Be on hold. Those are the 3 that are sort of interesting me the most. Although I've heard a lot of good things about the Rachel Clark's The Story of a Heart.
Yeah, so that one's about a children's organ donor story, isn't it? So there's obviously a child waiting for a heart transplant, and in order for that to happen, something fairly tragic has had to happen elsewhere. And so that was one that I was like, I'm sure it's great, but I'm not in a life place to read about something like that. So yeah, that's not one that I'll be picking up. But it does sound really interesting.
Yeah, definitely. It sounds very heavy. Yeah, they all sound... Agent Zoe is probably one that I'm the least interested in, because I'm really not a World War II person at all.
Yeah, it's very, like, I got the blurb up for it though. It does sound... Let me just find it again. It's the one with the most, I don't know, non-fiction title.
It does. World War II is so non-fiction coded, isn't it? Yeah, okay.
It sounds academic before you even started, but the blurb definitely sounded quite interesting. And even the cover, it looks very kind of, the sort of thing my granddad would have read. But this is the incredible story of Elzbieta Zawaka, the World War II resistance fighter known as Zoe, the only woman to reach London from Warsaw during the Second World War. As an emissary of the Polish Home Army Command, Zoe undertook 2 missions in the capital before secret SOE training in the British countryside. As the only female member of the Polish elite special forces, the SOE-affiliated Silent Unseen, Zoe became the only woman to parachute from Britain to Nazi German-occupied Poland. And it goes on to talk about her more, but she obviously was an incredible woman. So, yeah, I don't know how long that one is. am intrigued as to whether this book is as academic as I feel like it is going to be. 416 pages.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to read that. Although, non-fiction, bit of a hack. Often there's a lot of references, so you can normally cut 25% of it.
Okay, so hopefully that's 100 pages of references.
I don't know. I'm just, non-fiction's just not. I'm non-fiction. World War II stuff is just not.
World War II non-fiction?
Yeah, it's got to be. World War II fiction, though, like, all the light we cannot see, no. I'm just not a World War II gal.
Did you say the other book you've got out is Private Revolution?
Yeah, I have got that.
That one sounds quite interesting to me. I used to be absolutely obsessed with non-fiction about China.
Yeah.
And especially like family, generational stuff. Before like BookTube, I don't know, that's all I used to, not BookTube, before Goodreads, like in my first couple of years of Goodreads, which was a long time ago, yeah, that's all I used to really read. I was absolutely obsessed with it. So the only one I've read, and it's kind of by coincidence because I feel like this was maybe one of Waterstone's Book of the Month, like at some point. I don't follow that
at all, but I believe you.
I think it just pops up on my social media every now and again. And that's Raising Hair by Chloe Dalton, which I spoke about fairly extensively in our opening episode, so I won't go over it again. But I really, really loved that one. Obviously, it's a nature writing type memoir about a lady who raises a little leveret, so a baby hare, but it's done in a really non-cutesy kind of way, I guess, is how I'd want it to be, in that to start with, she's really cautious about even picking it up, and then when the hare is living in her home, like, she doesn't really touch it and stuff, so I don't know, it's the kind of nature memoir that I liked. And in our Welcome Back episode, Belle asked me if the hare dies at the end, and actually you just don't know, and it isn't sensationalist and it isn't overly emotional. It's just quite matter of fact and part of, that cycle of life, that she doesn't have to make a big thing out of the fact that the hare probably did die because it was old.
Yeah.
It's just kind of left for you to realise that is what happens in nature. So I really, really loved that one, but obviously I can't compare it to the rest because I've not read the others. So, yeah, it'd be interesting to see if it wins.
No intuition. I haven't
My
seen
gut's
any...
saying no.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
I haven't seen any predictions because it hasn't really got that traction where it's got a readership yet. I'm sure that will come.
Yeah, I hope it gains that.
Yeah, me too.
I've seen few, so I hope it gets more momentum because I think it's really important for people to read non-fiction in whatever format they choose to. But yeah, I hope it gains some traction in the future. Enough for it to continue. I don't know how. I guess they rely on sponsorship, so you'd like for it to gain some kind of notoriety. Otherwise, maybe it won't continue in the future. So hopefully it will.
No, hopefully. Yes, I agree. Hopefully. Sponsorships are very important.
Aren't they?
Yeah.
We can naturally move on now.
Was that intentional
Well done,
segue?
Sarah.
Did you see my face?
What a segue.
I know. I was like, my goodness.
Well done. It's like we planned it. We didn't.
No, we didn't.
But we were planning to talk about our own Patreon here. Usually this is where we'd stick an ad break in. It's the same ad break that we've done for years, and we pre-record it, we slot it in. But I feel like we're underselling ourselves, and I've heard a lot of other podcasts do it this way, and they just have a chat about their Patreon.
Can I pull the curtain back and give them the real reason why we're doing it this
way? Yeah, go on.
We got new editing software, which is really, really good.
But it's a pain in the freaking ass.
But it's really hard. So
ad breaks a pain in the neck.
Yeah, but the software is really, really good, so it's saving us a lot of time. So we're sticking with it, and we have been using the same ad break for years. That is true. I just found it really funny.
We should sell. It's our opportunity to sell ourselves.
Yeah, sorry,
more,
should I not have said that?
Forced our hand slightly. No, it's fine. It's funny. Yeah. So we have a Patreon. I'm sure people are aware, but we generally quite passively promote it, I feel.
Yeah.
Last year we opened it up, I want to say kind of to everybody, but we've made all our tiers, apart from our very top tier, which we'll get onto. We made them, kind of pay what you want.
Yes.
So you can start on the very lowest tier, which is £2 a month, and you get access to all our bonus content. So that's the monthly bonus episodes, a close friends feed on Instagram, so you get access to that. I've written down that we want to start a book club. We've been talking about this for ages, and it's just like logistically working out how we do it. And I still would really love to do that. So it'd be good if we could get some ideas from patrons. I'm trying to work out if we could kind of choose a book that also we then make an episode with that as well. So it helps us at the same time, because obviously, you know, we all work and have quite busy, full-on lives. So kind of we need to be able to slot it into how we run the main pod, I think, is my gut feeling.
Yeah. It's a difficult, because we have a bit of a recording issue with this podcast, because half of the podcast is in Australia, the other half's in the UK, so it's just a bit of a nightmare, to be honest. Yeah, so there's not many time slots that we have.
So we want it to happen. I really want it to happen, because I think it'd be a really nice way of getting like our patrons involved, and we could, you know, feed some of our patrons' comments like into the episodes if we then did an actual main
that's the
episode
ultimate goal, of course. I wouldn't really want to do it any other way. That's sort of my hesitation with it. Is that I would hate to do it. If we do a book club, I would hate for the patrons not to actually have input into the episodes, because otherwise that's just a bit boring. And we have some our patrons are really funny. A lot of them are great. Well, all of them are great, but some of them are hilarious. So I would want some of their comments. We have a good time.
A few of them have made it onto the main pod.
Yeah, that's basically where we get our...
struck up like friendships with them. Yeah, where we get our guests from. Hi, come on.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's really great. And you can have a 7-day free trial. I think that's linked to maybe a $5 tier, £5 tier, so you can cancel that straight away, switch back down to a cheap tier, or just, you know, listen to what you want to within that 7-day free trial. That's absolutely fine. We do have our top tier is still there, so that one is £10 a month. That is our like book recommendations tier. So we have a questionnaire that I'm very proud of this questionnaire. I worked really hard on it. We have this questionnaire that we send out to our patrons on that tier. Ask you lots of different questions about book tastes, books you didn't like, books you did, whether you want us to kind of challenge your reading taste a little bit. So I had great fun pulling that questionnaire together. We send out recommendations every 3 months. It's based on payments. I have to say this because it's not generally like a calendar 3 months. We do have breaks on Patreon, so it's like 3 monthly payments, and then you will get your first lot of recommendations. And then it's 6 monthly payments, and you'll get a physical book in the post, which I think we actually really quite enjoy picking the books for our patrons. I think it's full at the moment. Let me just check though. I'm publicising it.
Advertising of it's full. I mean, the other tiers aren't full. For sure. I mean, if people can join us as they want. Yeah, and we spend a lot of time doing our extra episodes, so we do about one a month. They are really fun. We do a lot of our currently reading on this. It's a bit more up to date. This pod, the main pod episodes they're recorded asynchronously, so they're not exactly in the exact order of our lives. Whereas the Patreon, we also tend to be a bit chattier. We talk more about other stuff. What have we been talking about recently? Oh, well, Belle and I had a very in-depth conversation about our careers in the last episode, where we talked a bit about sort of
movies.
We always talk about films a lot. Running. Chris and I used to talk about running a lot. We don't talk about running so much anymore because Chris is gone. But
because you're the only one who does it.
It's just thoughts. Yeah.
Yeah. Unfortunately, or fortunately for us, I don't know. Our book recommendations tier is sold out at the moment, but as we're going to do this more casual Patreon ad from now on, we can let people know if slots become free on that tier.
Yay.
It's very exciting. That's full.
Yeah, I didn't know that was full. Thanks, everyone. I massively appreciate that.
That is. It's amazing. It's really nice.
Yeah, it also it keeps this pod going. Honestly, we wouldn't be able to do it without the Patreons. We were just talking...
that was my main point that I wrote in my notes to say.
I've cut you off, Jen.
No. I've forgotten. So yes, well done for tracking us back.
Yeah, we were just making reference to that expensive software earlier. It's not super expensive to run a podcast, but it's absolutely not free. So you have to, produce. You have to pay for stuff. You have to pay for a host. So we have to pay a website to host our podcast, so it appears on Spotify and all those kinds of things. And we also have to pay for editing software. And we don't pay it, so we do it ourselves. So yeah, it's really nice that they let us, the patrons, enable us to just keep doing it and to not have to be paying for it out of pocket.
I think they genuinely, and they genuinely do enable us to kind of run the pod the way we do run it, because when we didn't used to have patrons and we didn't used to use the software we did, I cannot tell you how much extra work it is. And I think the only reason we can upload as regularly as we do and keep this pod going is because of our Patreon. So yes, huge thank you, essentially, to everybody.
Yeah. All right, let's get back to non-fic. Do you want to talk about some recent...
I'm quite excited to talk about this one.
Oh, yeah, please. So
I am.
I don't know. I DNF'd this one after like 2 pages. I don't know. I think I was in a bad mood. Let you go.
We'll talk about it. So, non-fiction that I recently finished was The Wager by David Grann, which I had seen you were reading because I think you put it on Instagram, so I could see you had your library copy.
Oh yeah, sure.
And this was on my TBR because it was on Barack Obama's like 2023 summer reading list, and I thought it sounded quite good. That's how I ended up having it on my list. David Grann wrote Killers of the Flower Moon, which you've read, right?
Yeah, I have read it.
Did you enjoy that one?
Yes, I read it quite a long time ago. We were going to do it for a podcast episode, a Patreon episode, actually, speaking of which I think never made it to... I don't think that episode ever manifested, did it, now that I think back? So basically, Chris and I tried to do a book and film thing of Killers of the Flower Moon. And the film is I just wouldn't recommend the film. It's very long. It's like 3 hours. So we both found it grueling, to say the least. So by the time we were through the film, we were both a bit sick of talking about it. I think we half recorded, but we were like, oh, no. Did something else, I think. I wouldn't recommend the film of Killers of the Flower Moon. But the book, I think I really enjoyed the book a lot better, I think.
It came out quite a long time ago, didn't it? But anyway, he's the author of that book.
That's not what we're talking about. What are we
That's not what I'm talking about. This book is about HMS Wager, which was this doesn't sound like a book that I'd ever be interested in. I'm not really sure. Barack Obama must have really sold it to me. So this is about HMS Wager, which was a Navy ship in 1741, and it gets real. Well, they're involved in a wreckage basically on an island off Patagonia, and that descends into murder and cannibalism and all the awful stuff that you can imagine if you're stuck on an island in 1741 and can't get off it. And a big part of the book is about the mutiny that took place, obviously between the captain and his shipmen. The reason that the boat is off out onto the ocean anyway is something to do with the Imperial War with Spain, and they're trying to hunt down some Spanish warship that's got lots of gold on it, was my understanding. But they crash, they go too close to the shore, and they get stuck on this island. Amazingly, they manage to escape it. So after this mutiny has happened, they have built a raft, and a lot of the shipmen manage to escape and make it back to mainland Brazil. They leave the captain and 2 of his, I'm going to say sidekicks, because I don't know what their proper terms are. Left-hand man, I don't know. They leave him behind, essentially, to just die, I guess. I'm just going to leave him behind.
See you later.
And they rock up, and they make it back to the mainland, and they're kind of hailed as heroes, and I'm pretty sure there's a book written, and they sell their story, that kind of thing, like probably would happen in today's world. And then 6 months later, the captain and his 2 shipmen that are left behind also make it back to the mainland on a ship of their own creation. And that leads then to obviously what really happened, and a trial takes place. I did find that once they got to the trial bit, it all got a bit tame, because in theory, the captain had murdered somebody, the crew had mutinied, which isn't... You can be executed for doing that. So the trial ultimately didn't go anywhere because it all got acquitted. And I think that was because the British Navy kind of wanted to brush it under the carpet. Yeah, right, okay. So it didn't have the sensationalist ending that maybe everyone would hope for, but that's non-fiction for you. I loved the audiobook. The audiobook was amazing. It's narrated by a guy called Dion Graham, who, I don't know, I think he's an actor. Whether he's like a famous actor, I don't know, but oh my god, did he sell that book? He was so good. And I'd read some reviews before I started listening to it that were like, oh, the narrator, he was so over the top. And I was like, oh, okay. And I gave the sample, because I know you recommend to do this, I gave the sample a listen, and I thought he was bloody brilliant. Yep. So it, in terms of what, I don't think I could have got through the physical copy. I just imagine, even though the writing must be to a point, he's made this story sound like the plot of a Hollywood movie.
That's so funny.
I still really felt like he really sold that audiobook. It's really, really good.
I mean, you love a musical, Jen. You love a bit of theatre. So it's probably just up your street.
Side note, we did this course with work that before we started watching, you have to watch loads of videos, right? Before we started watching them, everybody kept warning me about the American presenters. They were like, we're really sorry about the kind of overtop American presentation of this. I bloody loved it. I thought it was great. I was like, you can deliver in that style to me all you want. I'll take it all day. Then sort of dry, boring, kind of scripted piece of work. I thought it was brilliant. But this probably won't be music to your ears because you didn't like the Killers of the Flower Moon film. But I believe that Martin Scorsese and Leonardo DiCaprio are turning this one into a film or TV
I
series.
think it's got the potential to be a really good film.
It should be.
Yeah, my complaint with the first one, I think it was too true to the book. So it was such a procedural film, if you know what I mean. It's like someone going there, someone here, now he's here, now we're there. Like, it's just like, bloody hell. So hopefully it would be less like that, because I feel like there's so much stuff happening that's cool and fun in this
There's a lot
story.
going on.
I hope they can do something cool. But yeah, and
I think it was written from the books, the like logbooks that the chaps were keeping, which is really interesting. I've read some reviews that say some of it gets a little bit patchy, but then again, it's non-fiction and you can't just fill in the gaps. He does kind of, based on research, try and fill in some of those gaps for you. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. But having not read the physical book, I don't know, but the audiobook is really, really good.
I want to listen to the audiobook. I want to give it a little sample.
Do it.
Yeah, I want to give it a little sample. I might do it now.
Sample Dion Graham. He's amazing.
Yeah, I'm going to try. I'm just going to pop it into... See if I can find. So I listen to it live and do a live reaction. Oh, it sounds quite good, I think. Quite creepy. In a good way.
Yeah, he really sells it.
Oh, yeah. Quite creepy. I got quite creeped out there by him. Mm-hmm. It's a little bit sinister, but also quite camp.
That's exactly it. That's the best description we could have given. Creepy but camp. Yeah, camp. It definitely is. He definitely camps it up. It's great.
I want to shout out a book that I read a long time ago that I only talked about in the early days of the pod, and it's such a fucking good book that I want to mention it again. I want to mention again See What You Made Me Do by Jess Hill. So this is a non-fiction that won the Stella Prize quite a few years ago, maybe 4 years ago at this point, 3 years ago. Jess Hill is an American. What am I? She's an Australian journalist. And this is an appraisal of domestic violence in Australia. And she talks about a lot of the cultural narrative around domestic violence and how victim-blamey domestic violence is, and how much domestic violence is a problem is such a flipped narrative where we tend to focus so much on the things that the person who is the victim has done, like the system, what has happened in their lives, things that they should have done or could have done to change what happened to them. And there is so much less focus on the person who actually did these horrible crimes than in other crimes, basically. And so she's focusing on domestic violence. She also talks about sexual assault a little bit, but it's mostly about, domestic violence and the difficulty that people have breaking out of these situations and how complex these situations are when you have like kids and, mortgages and rent, and you've got contracts with the people that with the person who might be treating you like this. Just how complex that decision is, and how women tend to be in such a bad place when they're trying to leave a domestic violence situation, and how they don't have resources, and how they, the decision that they have to make in terms of what their life is going to look like once they leave is just so difficult, and how underappreciated that is. And then the original one is Australian, and then there's an American and a US edition out in those respective countries, which are adapted for those places. So like the UK edition talks about UK statistics and a bit more about the UK justice system and like what actually happens there. So each one, as far as I understand, that each edition is specific to the country that it's for. So yeah, it's just incredible. It's really, really good. Her writing's excellent. I really loved this. But I just don't see it around super much. It's not a book that you see. I know it's around in the UK and the US, but it's just, I think I've hardly ever seen anyone reading it really, but it's bloody amazing. Really, really good.
I remember you talking about this one at the time and thinking how great it sounds. It won the Stella, right? That's what you said.
Won the Stella, yeah.
Yeah.
Then it took quite a few years for the UK. Remember when we first talked about it, the UK edition book? I think I'd read an article saying that that's what they were doing, but they hadn't done it yet. But that has been done now, as far as I know.
She needed to change like some of the statistics in it, right?
Yeah, because it was all about, a lot of the focus was about what actually happens, like in practical terms, say you call the police if you're the victim of domestic violence, what they actually do. And also things about statistics about how much money you get and the kind of supports that are available, like the support systems that are available and what happens in court and all that kind of thing. So obviously that, is a bit more helpful if you can read it about the country that you're in. Yeah, so I'm just looking at the UK edition, but I'm sure that's out now. But it did take quite a while, understandably, for them to be adapted. Yeah, so now it's in Waterstones, but it only came out 2 years ago, so that was quite some years after. Yeah, so the one that I'm looking at in Waterstones is specifically citing English and Welsh statistics. So 1 in 20 adults suffer domestic abuse, 2/3 of them are women. Every week 2 men kill a woman they were intimate with. And then in the Australian one it talks about, I think it's 1 in 4 Australian women. Something like that. So yeah, they specify it, which is, excellent, I think.
That sounds really good. I would have said that at the time.
Yeah.
I really should get to that one.
Yeah, it's bloody excellent.
So we were going to end this little recommendation segment with celebrity memoir. If anyone's been around here a while, you'll know that I'm a fan of a celebrity memoir. I will say that I have talked about this on a Patreon episode already, so apologies to the patrons. You'll have heard this before. But I really enjoyed From Here to the Great Unknown by Lisa Marie Presley and Riley Keough. So Lisa Marie Presley is Elvis Presley's daughter. And Riley Keough is Elvis Presley's granddaughter, who played Daisy Jones in Daisy Jones and the Six. So she's a fairly well-known actress. Just before Lisa Marie Presley died in 2023, she'd asked Riley Keough to help her write her memoir. And then not very long after that, she passed away. So Keough wrote the book from the transcripts that her mum had recorded. And I listened to the audio of this one. I remembered a funny thing that had happened in our Patreon episode, which I could have just brushed past, but I'm going to highlight that it happened. So the audio book is narrated by Riley Keough. And somebody else does Lisa Marie Presley's section. It's just someone casual.
You're like some starting actress. I don't know who it was.
I reached the end of the audiobook and was like, oh, that's really nice. Julia Roberts has done the afterword. Realised she narrates the whole of Lisa Marie Presley's section. So it's right. Julia Roberts and Riley Keough narrate the book. It's a really good audiobook. Again, it's really hard when you haven't read the physical copy to then say it's better than the physical one. But obviously it's narrated by the person who wrote it, which I always quite like. She's an actress, so she narrates it well. But at the start of each chapter, they play a snippet from the tapes that Lisa Marie Presley recorded. So every single chapter starts with her talking, which I thought was really, really nice.
So immersive. Really cool.
Yeah, it's a really immersive audiobook. It's a really good memoir. I think I said to you that I kind of, after watching the Baz Luhrmann Elvis film, I kind of realised I had no interest in Elvis Presley before that. But then realised what an interesting life he'd had and how tragically cut short it was. And so Lisa Marie Presley's reflections on that life are really fascinating. It's a really complex memoir about childhood and being brought up in that kind of celebrity world, both within the limelight of her dad's life, but also in his shadows as well. So she's just had a really challenging life and upbringing. Some of it's really funny. She talk about they used to have golf carts to drive around Graceland, and how she used to drive up to the gates of Graceland and stick her fingers up to the fans that were there. Or she took someone's camera once and promised she'd go get a photo, and then went and threw the camera in the bin. She'd really kind of take the piss out of the fans waiting there. So it's just, parts of it are really funny, parts of it are very sad. Deals with a lot of addiction. Addiction was a big part of Elvis's life and hers. It deals with suicide. So, oh gosh, I can't remember Riley Keough's brother's name, but, you know, he took his own life. It really deals with those pitfalls of fame, and she's just a really interesting person. She's a really complex, like complicated character, and she talks a lot about how she knew that if she ever fell into addiction, it would kill her. So she at the start of her life, she avoids kind of any kind of addictive drugs or anything like that, completely avoids it, because she knows what will happen if she goes down that route. But after I think she had like IVF twins after Riley, and she was on a lot of opioid medication after having them, and that was it. That was her downward spiral into addiction, and is what ultimately killed her, a bit like her dad. So yeah, it's a sad memoir, but also funny. It covers her relationship with Riley's father, Danny, I think was a musician, and she was married to Michael Jackson. So there's a fairly interesting segment about her life with him as well. Her life at Graceland is really interesting. They're a bit like the royal family in that they opened up Graceland, and they'd lived in the rooms upstairs, and like the public could come and just visit. Yep. And yeah, it's just totally bizarre way of living. She's super impulsive as well, so she just moved. When this was after Elvis had died and she's had her children, she just moved them to the UK because she wanted to get away from that kind of life. And then she lived there for a little while and then didn't like it anymore, to move back again. And so her kids are on that kind of journey of being moved from place to place. Yeah. And because it's two people's memoirs, essentially, it's Lisa Marie Presley, but then also Riley Keough reflecting on the same parts of her life. It's very, very good. I really enjoyed it. It's not overly long. It's a fairly short memoir, probably because she passed away before I guess they truly could capture everything. But it's really good. And if you want to do the kind of trilogy of Elvis Presley stuff, you can do the Baz Luhrmann film, the Sofia Coppola Priscilla film is really, really good, and this memoir. I feel like I've read enough about Elvis now.
Well, it's quite extensive, isn't it? Yeah, it's such an interesting life, isn't it? It's just like fascinating. It's so hard to imagine, especially the Graceland stuff. Like, it is really like the royal family, the way people cluster around Buckingham Palace. But yeah, and then the way you're describing people like clustering at Graceland around the gates and stuff, and that presumably 24/7, I assume. Yeah, it's just such a bizarre way of living. It's weird to think about.
Very odd. Yeah.
I always wonder what people do when they do that. Like, what do they think they're going to get? It's really odd.
Yeah, I guess they don't care. I guess they just want that kind of access, don't they, to somebody they idolise. And he used to kind of sit upstairs in his bedroom, and she spent lots of time like in his bedroom with him. That's how her and him spent time together. It's just makes you realise how sad that. I think they are sad. I think that's the thing. Like, they both suffered with depression. Like, it's not a life I think anybody would strive for if you knew what the ultimate outcome was going to be from all of that.
It's pretty, I agree. But yeah, I'm glad you enjoyed that one, because I remember you chatting about that on the Patreon. So yeah, lovely.
I'll continue to be the celebrity memoir correspondent on this.
Non-fiction's a great. Yeah, it's a great way to get into other people's words. That's why Belle loves memoirs so much. Belle's a big memoir reader. We cut her out of this episode, but she loves a memoir. And that's we'll
get her on for a memoir special, I think, at some point, get her to do one.
That's basically why, right? You get this sort of like very personal, very, very introspective, very interesting look at someone else's life. Often they're so different to what you've lived. They're pretty amazing. But that fiction does that as well, of course. But yeah, non-fiction is, I think, it all being exactly true often is just, it makes it a little bit different, I think, than reading about it in like Daisy Jones and the Six or something like that. That's how I feel.
Yeah.
It's pretty crazy.
Absolutely. Yeah. We love it.
Yeah. Nice.
All right. I think we're done.
Oh, yeah. Good one.
Thank you for listening. There are loads of ways you can get in touch with us with questions, ideas, feedback, recommendations. Please do email us. We're thebookcastclub@outlook.com, or you can get in touch on Instagram or TikTok, where we're at Bookcast Club. We keep mentioning this bloody newsletter. I haven't sent it out for ages. You can sign up to our newsletter for more reviews, new releases, podcast recommendations, and updates on the pod. I am planning on sending one out at some point while this
At
season
least
is
we can
live.
promise your
We'll see if I stick to
inbox
that.
will not be flooded. Fear not.
Yes, your
It's a
inbox
very
will not
safe
be flooded.
subscription in that respect.
We'll barely get in touch with you at all. But it's there, and if we are going to get in touch, that's how we'll do it. So yeah, get on the list anyway. Please do check out our Patreon. You can obviously get your 7-day free trial, but you can get access to all our bonus content for as little as £2 a month, and there is now over 40 bonus episodes ready and waiting for you. You can rate us on Spotify or rate and review us on Apple Podcasts. That would be amazing. And you can also share our posts on social media. Please do.
Please do.
Love for more people to listen. We're always after new listeners, but we're also very grateful for the ones that already exist. Yes. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
And we'll be back very soon.
Goodbye.